I'm Dr. Amy, for those of you who don't know me. I just want to say thank you guys for coming and being here. And there's just something so special that happens, as Sarah and I were talking about 10 minutes ago, that something really special that happens when we all just get together and get to connect with one another and share a meal. And I hope my intention for tonight is that you guys walk away and learn something and feel more empowered about your health. And then just that we get to connect, and I get to know you guys better, and then all the loved ones that you guys brought. So that means a lot to us here. It's for this environment, for here at Thrive, it's our family. So everyone, our patients, the staff, we're all connected. We all have a heart connection, and you mean just the same to us as our own family, and my husband. So my husband over here, this is Jared. He's hiding down the hall here. So yes, I did tell him to pop out at certain points through the night. So first I'll just tell you a little bit about me. So a little bit about me and my husband. I've been a chiropractor for a number of years. Been married for, oh gosh, how long? 1 year, a little over 1 year, but we've been together for over 9 years now. So my husband has been my rock through chiropractic schooling. And we made it through that. So that's a pretty big deal. We have our fur babies. So we have a dog, Weston, and then we have a cat named Winifred, or we call her Winnie for short. So all black dog, a white cat, and those are our babies. And then we were blessed with 9 nieces and nephews. So we have lots of little ones that we get to be fun aunts and uncles too. And and a big family. And so a hobby that my husband and I share together is boating. So we have a boat. So that's our summer. What we do is we boat, and my husband wake surfs, and I don't so much because my hands and my feet are just way too precious to me. So I drive while he surfs. And yeah, that's the hobby that we get to do and spend time together. And we love trying new restaurants. So I like to cook new things. My husband, not so much. He likes to, try the things that turn out well that I cook. And then we like to just go to different restaurants and try different foods and just travel. We travel, love to do that. So he gets to travel with his work more than I do. But when I can, I pop out on the weekends and join him places when he's out traveling. So we love doing that as well. So my parents, these are my parents. My dad, who, I don't know if you guys, you may or may not have seen him here. So he frequents here. I'm his chiropractor, which is really just a special thing because he's actually the one that introduced me into chiropractic. So to turn around and now I see him as just something really special to me. And my mom, so my mom, she was a flight attendant for over 40 some years. So Northwest and then Delta when they merged. So she would primarily would go to Amsterdam every weekend. So 3 days out of the week she'd go there, and so I got to travel a lot when I was a kid growing up, flying standby, and just you never knew where you'd end up. You slept at some airports and you didn't know where you were going to be. So it was an adventure, definitely. And then with my dad, so my dad worked as well. So he had a lot of jobs in his life. So he was in intelligence during the Vietnam War, and then he worked on the railroad. So I get to, later on, I'll share his story and kind of what he experienced with chiropractic care and his story with that. But he was pretty hard on his body, working on the railroad, and then he was a jewelry maker at one point. And then finally he founded a restaurant. So with my uncle, so Devani's. So that's a restaurant. That's the family restaurant is my uncle, and there was a silent partner, and then my dad. So I grew up with the value of hard work. So I knew the value of hard work. That was rooted into me. And I know Jennifer, you worked in the restaurant industry for a long time, so you know it's a lot. It's hard work, and I did it for 14 years. So I was in the industry for 14 years, and it was never something I wanted to do forever. I've always been interested in helping other people and the human body, but you get sucked into family business. So I know before I was, legally when I was able to, I was 14, and that's when I legally started working. But when I was probably 11, my dad had us going into the bakery and making, subs for that they were selling at Northwest. So that's, and making rolls and all sorts of things. So that's a little bit about just my life and that. Really why I'm a chiropractor. So how I got into it is really like a lot of other people. So I got into chiropractic because I was in a car accident when I was 16. So I didn't know what chiropractic was at the time. We were hit by a drunk driver. So a drunk driver in a big truck ran a stop sign, and I was in the front seat, and the car spun a 360. So it spun a 360 and pretty bad. Car was totaled. I didn't break anything, but I was taken to the hospital. So they checked me out, did x-rays, and said, well, nothing emergent is going on with you. Nothing giant, nothing major. So here's some muscle relaxers and rest. Go home and rest, and you'll feel better. Well, as the days went on, I started to feel pain, and it was just getting worse. And I didn't know I was 16. I had no idea what neck pain was. I didn't know what back pain was. I was really fortunate about that. I didn't know what it was up until that point. But that impact from the car accident, and all of a sudden, my world changed. So I had headaches, so I was having a hard time making it through school. Pretty sure I had a concussion, at least a minor one. So I had light sensitivity too. I had issues concentrating. It was pretty miserable. My grades were falling in school. And I went back to the doctor. I was like, well, I know they told me nothing's broken, but it doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I should. This isn't, I'm not going to adapt to this as my new normal. I know what it's like to feel good, and I want to feel that again. So I went back to the doctor, and they gave me more muscle relaxers and said, you've got whiplash. Just rest and come back if it's not getting better. Well, I didn't like that. I didn't like the answer. I was like, well, I'm 16. Why are you giving me pain meds? Why are you giving me muscle relaxers? I don't want to take this. I want to fix this. And at 16, I was thinking, well, who do I go to? I went to the doctor. Who do I find that can help me with this? And my dad and my sister actually had just started seeing a chiropractor. So my dad suggested to me, hey, come see my chiropractor and see if he can help you. So that's what I did. And the accident I was in was pretty bad. I saw a chiropractor probably 4 to 5 days a week for a while. And I had scoliosis in my back too, in my spine. So I had functional scoliosis as well. So my spine was curved, and my mid-back was curved off to the side when it's not supposed to be. And it was functional. It was something that might have been caused by the accident, or I might have developed through time, but I wasn't born with it. So that's what I had as well. And so we're combating that injury from the accident. And through time with my adjustments, my headaches went away. My pain went away. And I still, to this day, don't have scoliosis. So even on my x-rays, and I'm happy to show you guys my x-rays anytime. You can see it. It's not there. It's a nice, healthy, straight spine. I should have included them on here, but I didn't. So that's, naturally with me, with my personality, if you know me really well, and my husband does, and this kind of drives him nuts, but I'm a researcher. So I have to know the details and everything about everything. I have to know the whys. And once I dig, I go into the research rabbit hole, is what I call it. I dig deep, and I find out everything about it. And I know, James, you're like that too. You're just like me, I know. You're that way too. So I will give you some really good information tonight for those of my researchers out there. But I had to know I had to know more. I needed to know why I felt better from this. What is the science behind it? Why did I feel better? And why do I continue to feel better with getting that treatment? So I started researching the nervous system because the chiropractor started telling me about the nervous system, and I said, okay, it's not enough. It's not enough. So I went and got my yoga teaching license, and I taught yoga for 5 years, and I said, it's not enough. I want to know more. So then, I did my, I did my associate's degree, I did my undergrad, and my bachelor's in biology, and then I went on to my doctorate in chiropractic. So made it through, 8 years of school, and I still feel like I could know more. I think with Dr. Megan and I, we agree. Any chiropractors, we feel like we don't know enough. We want to know it all, and there's so much to know, especially when it comes to the brain and the nervous system, because it controls everything, every cell, every organ, every tissue in our body. It controls and coordinates the function of it. So there's so much that we still don't even know about it. We're still ever learning. So a little overview about tonight is I get to share, I want to share a concept called inverted thinking. So it's a way on how to solve problems. And we'll tie that into health. We'll give you about 5 main factors that I find that really impacts our health. And then a little bit into the neuroscience, like I talked about, and then share some stories about some results. So some results that people have had, my family included, my dad and my husband, and then some of the patients here. And you just get to hear what their experience is. So with inverted thinking, Albert Einstein, he was all about invert. So he said, invert, always invert. And this is really a concept of when you have a problem or you set a goal, we invert it. We invert it, and that helps us solve it. So it's changing our perspective to think about how we solve this problem or how we accomplish this goal. So let's say, Tristan, if you say to me, and you have before, is I want to be healthy. So if you say, Dr. Amy, I want to be healthy. I want to have more energy. I want to sleep better. Well, that's a lot. That's a complex thing to have to be healthier. What does that mean? To sleep better, to have more energy. So what we do with this is then we go and invert it. So we start to look at it from the aspect of what would you do to be unhealthy and in pain. So I want you guys to interact with me here and tell me what are some things that if you wanted to be unhealthy, in pain, and be the most miserable, what are some things that you would do? Eat junk food. Yes, yep. Yep.
Sit on the couch a lot.
Sit on the couch, yeah. Don't sleep at night. So not getting enough sleep, sitting around, not exercising, and putting unhealthy things into our body, yes. So if it was me, so what it would look like, I would sleep for 4 or 5 hours. And then I would be a bear, as my husband would say. Don't wake the bear. So sleep is important. It's very important to our bodies, but it's very important to me too. So sleep, I would sleep for only 4 or 5 hours if I wanted to be unhealthy. I would eat donuts or what are those cream danishes. I would have a cream danish for breakfast and maybe go to McDonald's for lunch. I have not done that, and I don't even know. I've been gluten-free for 12 years, so well over that. So I don't know what they have. Cheeseburger, their fries, what's popular there? Cheeseburger fries? Chicken nuggets, there you go. What is it? What is their machines that are always broken? Their flurries?
Ice cream machine.
Yeah, yep, they're ice cream. They're always broken. And then I would have a nice microwave dinner with lots of preservatives in it. So yes, eating unhealthy. And then I'd be, like I said, be a bear. I'd be grumpy. I'd drive to work and I'd be mad at everyone on the road and I'd find someone to blame for everything and I'd just pick out the negative in everyone. And walk around and just kind of sigh and grunt, and that's how I would be. And then I'd go to my desk and I'd hunch over and I'd Well, I guess with me, yeah. If I'm adjusting patients, maybe I just sit. I just sit and adjust them. I wouldn't move. I just be in a chair and just only move what I needed to, what I absolutely needed to. And then, I would say, so Dr. Megan, she's my chiropractor. So, and I'm hers. So I'm so fortunate to have you. So thank you for being my chiropractor, Dr. Megan. But I would say, Dr. Megan, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. We're not going to adjust each other this week. So everyone needs adjustments, differently. I get adjusted every week. That's what I need. I lean over bodies all day like this, and for my nervous system, I get better energy, better sleep. So that's what I need. And so Dr. Megan adjusts me every week, and if I skip it, boy, do I know. So I just don't feel as good. So I would skip my adjustment if I wanted to be unhealthy. So if we invert what we inverted. So if we go back to the original problem, we go back to that original goal of Tristan's goal of I want to be healthy, I want to sleep better. We find that what we just talked about these 5 main things. So, and they're really the 5 main factors that are going to affect your health in the biggest way. They're going to have the biggest impact on your health. So the first one is food. So what we put into our bodies. And not only do we know is that that's important for energy, for our bodies to get energy, and for us to feel good. But it's also really important with the quality of tissue and cells that we have in our bodies. So our cells are constantly dying and being regenerated. So, and that's in every part of our body. So our organs, our skin cells, they're sloughing off, or in our organs, they go through a process called apoptosis. So it's cell death. And then we have to replace them. So basically when we're losing matter and it's still the same size, we're still the same size, what the difference is what we put into our bodies, is what we put into ourselves. So that makes up our cells. So super important to eat healthy, to get healthy, to have healthy nourishment into our cells and actually have that energy. Exercise is really the second factor. So exercise is great for, yes, lots of reasons. So strong musculoskeletal system, yes, that's huge, building strength. But also what you might not know is it's really important for disc hydration. So our spines, we have right in between our spines, we have these lovely things called discs. And that allows us to move forward, backward, in all directions. And it's this nice cushion. So our spines, we have to move around. If we stay still and we're not moving and we sit all day at work and we don't get up and we don't move around, then we lose that hydration in our discs because our spine gets stuck. What happens is then our spine gets stuck and our vertebra can't get the nutrients. So we start to lose that hydration because the nutrients and hydration that we get in our discs happens through this process called diffusion. So in order for us to get that hydration, that rehydration, and get it back in, it needs to be mobile, it needs to be moving. So I encourage you guys to, if you have a sit-stand desk, how many of you guys have a sit-stand desk at work? Yes, yeah. So a sit-stand desk was great. A wobble cushion. So you can sit on a normal chair and then just put a wobble cushion. So we have them in all our patient changing rooms. That's what the disc is, if you're ever wondering. And for those of you, you'll see them later, so you get to see the discs that we have. But yeah, they're really cheap. You get them on Amazon. Something that starts to engage your core and keeps your spine moving. So otherwise, a pedal desk, that's a great option too. Really great for kids that are in school, and an exercise ball, or just getting up frequently, just making sure you're moving to some capacity, that you're not staying in the same position, that you get up and move. So another one, so our next factor, our third factor is sleep. Sleep is, we know, sleep's important. We need sleep. Sleep is especially important for both men and women, but I will say for hormone-wise, it's really important for women. So women actually, we have to replace our hormones. That's when we get our recovery and replacement of it is at night through sleeping. So men, you get to replace your hormones during the day. And at night too, but you can produce it during the day. Women, we can't. We need sleep in order to replenish our hormones. So that's huge for us. And then cell restoration. So getting our cells to restore, our tissues to recover. So that's when our injuries heal overnight and our tissues recover. And then disc hydration is the last one. So it rehydrates the discs as well. When we are at our true state of rest, we're laying horizontally, we're actually sleeping, that allows our discs to get rehydrated. So actually you're a little taller in the morning and you're the shortest at night, and that's because gravity. So throughout the day, gravity and the stress that we endure in life, picking up things with our jobs. I know, Tony, you've got a very intense, labor-intensive job with that. When you're doing that, that's a big thing. So that, and even just gravity, we always have this compressive force. We call it axial compression. It's this compressive force. It pushes down on our spine. So our discs do start to shrink because of that. So when at night, that's a nice recovery time for our discs to rehydrate and replump. And then this one, I know it sounds corny, but mental attitude. And I will tell you why. Because we all know mental attitude. Yes, that's something, of course we're going to feel better if we're happier. Yes. But there's actually a physiological reason for it, I promise. So when we are stressed and we think more negatively, our cortisol levels, our stress hormone increases. When our cortisol levels increase, what our cortisol does is it travels with something called a catecholamine. So that's our pain gate receptor. So in other words, when we have a negative mental attitude and we are stressed out, we're in more pain. Physiologically, we're in more pain because of that. So actually, when we're less stressed and we change to have more of a positive attitude, that decreases our cortisol, increases our dopamine, and increases our serotonin. And therefore, also, when it decreases the cortisol, decreases our pain, that catecholamine. So truly, physiologically, there is an effect to that. And also, so this is an important one. I love this one. Still with the mental attitude, it affects our telomere lengths. So yes, having a good attitude actually affects how you age. So you will age better if you have a better mental attitude and are less stressed. And then the final factor, which we talk about more later, but I'll give you a little brief overview first, is having a sound nervous system. So because our nervous system controls every cell, organ, and tissue in our body, it's really important. And it ends up being a key for these things too. And we'll talk about this, but in order to go through that, I have to give you a little bit of a basic with knowledge on this neuroscience. So I get to talk to you a little bit about that. So I'm going to go over to my whiteboard here, and you guys get to make fun of my drawings. It's very true what they say about doctors and have terrible handwriting. That is very true. So we're going to start with the brain. So we've got a nice brain here. And then we've got our spinal cord. So we've got our spine. So our spine is made up of these bones. Does anyone know what these bones are called? These vertebrae, yes. And what are the spaces? We already really talked about it, but the spaces that go in between the vertebrae, the discs. So these nice round discs here. And then protecting our spine is our nerves. So we have our nerves going down through our spinal cord and then out to our body. So our nerves go out to everything in our body. They go to our hands, every muscle, every organ, and that's how you connect your mind to your body and your body to your mind. That's your nervous system. Why it's so important is it's actually the first thing that develops when you're forming as an embryo. So within the first 7 days, that starts to happen, your nervous system forms. It's the only thing that's encased in bone. So we have our spinal cord with all these nerves, over 1 million nerves just in our spinal cord. That's totally encased in bone, and then our brain, which is part of our nervous system, and that's totally encased with our skull. So these nerves, they travel out and they send signals. They send signals about all sorts of things. So pain, they tell our body about hormones, they tell our body about muscles and to strengthen certain areas or to weaken certain areas. So they are the messages that tell our brain to tell everything, and then our brain goes back and sends signals through our spine to our body and says, make these changes or do these things. Take my hand away from a hot stove. So if they go to organs, they go to, name an organ that in your body. So liver. So it goes to your liver. So what happens if this nerve goes to your liver? What happens if the spine is out of alignment? So let's say the spine's pinching on that nerve right there. What happens is your liver going to be healthier or sicker?
Not great.
Sicker. So it's really going to be sicker. So, and I'll give a perfect example of a story about that. But what I'm checking as a chiropractor is I'm checking not just your bones, I'm checking the function of your body, the function of your nervous system. I want to make sure that you don't have any interruptions or irritation on the nerve. So when the spine is out of alignment, so I check every time you come in, I check and I see if your spine is twisted. So your spine is meant to move, but if it's twisted, it can get stuck. So it can get stuck in that position. And it can either put a physical pressure on the nerve or it can be more of like a chemical irritation. But it only takes the weight of a dime to irritate the nerve, so not much. So any inflammation can irritate this too. So any irritation there, and wherever that nerve goes, it's not going to signal properly. So our bodies aren't going to function the way that they're intended to at its full capacity. So that's what I check for every time you come into the office here. So I check that the nerves and the integrity of that. It's not just, of course, we care about pain, but that's really not all we care about. It's function too. So So story to tie the nervous system in is Christopher Reeve. So you guys know Superman. He was in an accident. Do anyone know or remember what accident he was in?
The horse riding accident.
Yeah, horse riding accident. So he fell off his horse. He severed the spinal cord. The first and second vertebra, so C1 and C2, so right in here. So the first two vertebrae that attach to the skull there. And he didn't just sever the nerve, or he didn't just pinch the nerve, he didn't just irritate the nerve, he severed the spinal cord. So what happens, that's something that Dr. and Meg and I don't fix. We can't fix that. That's a terrible place too, because the higher up, then the more impact it has on everything down below. So what happened to him was, because of the nerve being severed, he was on a respirator, so he couldn't breathe on his own, because our lungs are down here. So the nerves that go to our lungs are right here. And his injury was all the way up here, so everything from here down. So he was in a wheelchair, so he couldn't move. So he started to get muscle atrophy. And that's because the nerves weren't communicating to those muscles. So he lost that. He lost all nerve communication to the muscle, so it starts to atrophy when that happens. So thankfully with him, he made more strides than what they thought he would, because a lot of times when people have a severed nerve, then they don't know if it's going to recover. Many times it doesn't. But the wonderful thing about our bodies is there's still a lot we don't know, but we do know that there's something called neuroplasticity, and that's where our nerves actually can rejoin. The severed part, it can actually heal and rejoin, and that's really pretty amazing that can happen in our body, and we don't have to do anything about it. It just, we heal. We heal from the inside. That was how God created us. So now we go back to the main factors of health and how this nervous system ties in. So basically, the key, this nervous system, having that sound nervous system is key, because let me tell you, if you have your small intestines, that nerve that's going to your small intestines, if that is irritated, so it doesn't need to be severed, but it just needs to be irritated. If that's irritated, then you're not going to get the absorption. So it doesn't matter if you're eating healthy foods. You can eat healthy foods, yes, that'll help some, but you're not going to get the absorption because you don't have the nerve signaling to there. So that's kind of a big deal. I don't know about you, but I want to function at my fullest. I want to make sure that my body can absorb the nutrients that I'm putting into it. And then, especially because food's so expensive. So if I'm spending money on it, if I'm putting it in my body, I I want it to absorb. I want the full effects. And then exercise too. So if a nerve's pinched, like I said, if I see this in a less rare case, so with weightlifters. So anyone that does weightlifting. So if you have a nerve that's pinched in your neck, so let's say C6, well, that goes to your shoulders, your upper, your kind of the tops of your shoulders into your traps. So if I'm weightlifting and I'm trying to strengthen my traps, well, this one's getting strong, but this one isn't. Well, that's because where the nerve's exiting at the side, there's irritation or pressure. So no matter how much I lift on this side, it's not going to be the same. I'm not going to have the same strength. So really, I see that a lot with athletes is they don't have the full strength that they want. And it's not what we call bilateral and symmetric. It's not the same on both sides, and that's a nerve issue there. And then sleep. So again, when I adjust people, I adjust with what's happening. So if someone tells me that they're suffering from depression or anxiety or in more of a stressed out state of mind, then what I adjust is right in your neck and then here in your sacrum. We've got these nerves that come out in these areas, and they're part of what we call your parasympathetic nervous system. So your parasympathetic nervous system and what's called your sympathetic nervous system, which is more in this region, those nerves that come out there, they are like a scale. So they're always trying to play balance. But when you're more stressed or you have a misalignment in your spine, your sympathetic nervous system takes over. And so your body produces more. Because of that, your body produces more cortisol. Your digestion starts to change. You feel more anxious. Your heart beats faster, so that starts to race. Your respiration starts to increase. There's all sorts of things that affects. So in that state, and so you can think about, if anyone's had a panic attack. So all those things, that's really ramped up. So it doesn't need to be that bad for your sympathetic to take over and for you to feel it to that level, but that's what it's like. And so when I adjust these areas, it helps calm down that sympathetic and it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which in turn tells the body to lower those cortisol levels, produce melatonin, so that we can sleep and we can get into our sleep cycle and those hormones that affect that, and that our body can really rest, digest, and protect. That's what parasympathetic mode is all about. So that's how that affects. And then mental attitude. So that's again the parasympathetic. So we decrease that cortisol levels. It's so if we don't have a sound nervous system, it doesn't matter. It only matters to some extent. This doesn't work as much as we want it to. So then the question is, well, what causes these misalignments? What causes issues? What causes nerve irritation? And there are so many things that do, because we're humans. We have gravity. We're made to move. We do different things, and we work at jobs where we do a lot of repetitive motions. So physical stress. So our posture with sitting at a desk all day, Tony, I know you work and you're doing manual labor, but you do a lot of the same motions every day. So that wears and tears on the body, and it only moves certain areas. So things start to get stuck, and our nervous system doesn't communicate to its fullest. Chemical stress is another one. So that can be environmental toxins. That can be the stuff that we're putting in our body. Stuff that we're breathing in, stuff we put on our skin, that just chemically in our body, what that affects and causes inflammation and some sort of irritation on those nerves. And then emotional stress too. So that can be having an argument with your significant other or your roommate or your friend. That could be not getting enough sleep. That could be stress. That could be losing a loved one. So any sort of emotional stress can also cause it. So most of us know if we haven't exercised, if we're not eating healthy, if we're going to McDonald's, we know we're not eating healthy. If we know we haven't exercised this week. So how do you know if you have a nerve interference? So do you think it has to hurt? Do you think it would hurt?
Not always.
Yeah, not always. So the reason for that is we're really we've kind of been ingrained into our brains that we need to feel pain, that's something we need to, what tells us that there's something wrong with our body is pain. Well, the problem with that is only 10% of our nerves, and like I told you, there's over 1 million just in your spinal cord. So only 10% of those carry pain signals. 90% of your nerves are in charge of function. That's what they care about. They care about your organs working. They care about the function of your body, the function of your brain, the function of the cells and the muscles. But they're not the ones communicating and saying there's pain. So that's why it's so important, and that's why Dr. Megan and I care about helping you with your function and not just, that's why we don't always ask you every single time you're in, are you in pain? Because one, we don't want you to always be focused on that, and then you increase your cortisol and then you increase your pain and that effect. But so we don't want that, but also, it's very important to us that we focus on the function and what we see in the office when you come in. So like when you're coming in, when people come into our office, we're looking at your leg length, we look at your posture, and I'm gonna spoil this, but I look at every time you come into the room as you're walking in, I look at how you're walking. So, and I do that, I don't tell you because I wanna see how you do it naturally. So I look at the whole body from the feet up, and that gives me a story. So all these things give me a story. I also we have an inflammation scanner. So we have the scanner that we scan the paraspinal muscles. So where the nerves exit the spine, in the neck, all the way down to the sacrum. And each time you get adjusted, we scan, and we are able to find the levels of inflammation. So that also tells us a story. We also check your leg length and your muscle tone. I feel around and I check the joints, and I see how the joints are moving all throughout your spine, your pelvis, your sacrum, and your head, your occiput. And then we do, for new patients, we do x-rays, and then after a little bit of time through care, we x-ray again, and we show you your results. So we see how you've progressed through care. We have your first ones, and then we have your ones after a little bit of care, and we see that helps guide us to how you're healing and where we need to go from there with treatments and how it's working. So I'll tell you a little bit about my favorites. So besides adjustments, you're probably sick of me talking about them. I'll talk about it all day long, but we have some other things that are my favorites. So foam rolling, I'll share my secret with you guys. I keep a foam roller in my adjusting room, and when between certain patients, I foam roll because I do this all day. So I foam roll on my spine, and I get that extension because I need that for my body. I need to counterbalance that. So foam rolling, I love it. I love it for people that sit at a desk or do prolonged sitting and are hunched forward. That really is wonderful. And then, or for athletes to get knots out of certain areas, and really you can foam roll anywhere, so it's fantastic. I also love red light therapy. So it is infrared, near infrared, and then there's blue lights in ours as well. So light therapy, and it does a lot of things, and there's still a lot of studies coming out with it, but you might see it in a dermatology clinic because there's skin benefits with aging and wrinkles and all of that, but also it penetrates really deep into the tissues, so it helps with ATP in cells, so energy, your energy house in your cells, and then also it helps with muscle recovery and inflammation. So if you have arthritis, or you're an athlete, or you have pain, it helps actually go into those cells and helps with that. And then massage. We also have massage, and I get massages once a month. For me, I do. And Peggy is our massage therapist, and she is wonderful. So she is I think nationally licensed, right? So that's not a requirement, but and Peggy goes to the gym. She used to be a bodybuilder. She's really strong, and she knows what she's doing. And Dr. Megan and I, we're picky, so we both see her and we love her. We're pretty picky with our massage therapists, so she's great. And then acupuncture. So we just got Valerie on our team, and she does acupuncture. So she does acupuncture, and she does a little stim with it, so muscle stim sometimes with people. So she puts a little stim on the needle, and it helps with get into the muscle fiber and helps release that. So that is something that there's a lot of really good studies on pain with that. And then just helping with flow and getting that irritation and inflammation down inside the body. So from more of a cellular level. So now I want to share a few stories with you. This is my dad again. So I want to tell you a little bit about him. So this is really close to my heart because it's something new that has kind of happened with him. Because he was so hard on his body, he was so hard on his body that he had to have surgery recently. So he was getting adjusted, but he had so much trauma. He had a lot of car accidents in his past too. So he ended up needing surgery. What happened to him was basically that the nerve that exits out of the spine here, so basically this is what his looked like. He didn't have a disc left, basically, or not much. And then right here, where the bones, there's a hole right where the nerve comes out. The bones were too close together on one side, and so it was actually putting physical pressure on the nerve. So what happened with him is, one day I was seeing him, and I started noticing his walk was off, and then I checked, and I did a whole neurological exam on him. So I checked his reflexes, I checked his muscle response and his muscle strength, and what I found was that it was 0. So it ended up getting to the point, slowly getting to the point where it ended up being nothing. So he had no nerve input, so he couldn't move his foot. When I, whacked him on the knee with a reflex hammer, it didn't move on his right side, but it moved on his left, and that told me where the problem was with the nerve. So I can find all these things out and say, okay, this is the nerve at this spot in the spine, this segment on this side of the spine, that's where it's getting pinched. So this is where Dr. Megan and I refer out. That's the case. We can't help people once they get to the bone on bone. At least with that segment, we can help with the rest of their body, but that one spot, that's when we refer out. So I found him one of the best neurologists, or neurosurgeons, I should say, one of the best in the state, and he chose to take his case, and he is so lucky because I'm so happy that he found adjustments and introduced me into chiropractic, because if he hadn't gotten adjusted, what would have happened was the surgery, his spine wouldn't have been stable, or his vertebra wouldn't have been stable, and so they would have had to fuse. They would have had to fuse these two segments together. But because he had been getting adjusted, it only degenerated where he had really impacted previous trauma, and we were able to save enough of the disc where it stayed stable. It stayed stable, so all they had to do was just widen that hole. So when you fuse something, I know Dr. Megan and I know we don't love it, and it has to happen for some people, but it's not ideal, because what happens is the segments above and below they have to move more because this one doesn't move. So they have to become hypermobile, and when that happens, it wears and tears on the bone. So it just degenerates quicker. It breaks down quicker. And we don't want our spines to break down any quicker than they need to. So it's just not how our body was made and how it was intended to be. So we like to keep the movement if we can. So, and recently, about 2 weeks ago, my dad had his reflexes back, and he has movement. So it only took, less than a month for him to actually get some response back, and that's really not the case for everyone. It really isn't. Once there's pressure on the nerve, the longer that there's pressure, and the neurosurgeons will tell you the same thing, the longer that there's pressure on it, less likely we know that it's going to recover. So we didn't know. We didn't know if it would recover. And he continued to get adjusted, and then I also sent him out for decompression therapy, where it expands into the spine and helps create that space and get that pressure off, that physical pressure off. So I had him doing that, and I was adjusting him, and he's still working on it, but he has reflexes, and he can move his foot now. So that's amazing. And I love seeing my dad back healthy and not in a walker, because he went from being really healthy and walking to in a walker, really fast. And then my husband, so this is Jared. So my husband, who's the adventurer. So you can pop out so people can see you. Yes, this is my rock. This is my opposite. I am much quieter, and he's my adventurer. You're very outgoing, and you do all of the things. So you name a hobby, and he's probably, yeah. So this is very strange for him to be quiet and silent. Yes, he loves to be very active and golf and play volleyball and not snowmobile. He snow bikes. And so it's like a dirt bike you put a sled on. So he does that and goes out west, Colorado, and yeah, you go all the places and do that. And then in the summertime, you're surfing and play on a golf league with my dad and all sorts of things. So you do it all. Needless to say, he's come home with some injuries pretty frequently, actually. Yeah, Dr. Megan, how long have you, tell me, how many injuries has Jared had in the last year? So few, yeah. Broken ankle, that was probably broken rib, that was the last one, I think, yeah. Yes, so I have my work cut out for me on a regular basis. I just adjusted him before this dinner talk here, but so really for him, I think one of his major strong points, he needs adjusted. He goes on these trips and he comes home and he's like, it could be 1 a.m. and it's like, babe, I need my adjustment. and I say, okay, the rules after 11 p.m. No, next day, there's a cutoff. So he feels much better when he's adjusted. And I remember, when I was in chiropractic school, I didn't know this about him, but I think, when did it start? High school, when you started throwing out your back. So he'd go through about a week of time, is that right? About a week of time when he would walk around like this, even before I knew him, for about a week. And it started in high school when he was wrestling. And then when I went into chiropractic school, I said, oh, well, you got a rib out. And I adjust him and stands up straight, and it's like gold for him. He's like, oh, this is great. So now he knows. Now he's like, I've got a rib out, and he lays down, and he just lays down and plops in front of me. It could be like in the kitchen, and he'll just be like, I've got a rib out, and he's flat on the ground, and okay, we'll fix it. So that's his story. So Joylyn, so thank you for letting me share your story. Oh, it's beautiful. So Joylyn, she came. I met her at the Burnsville Fire Muster, and it was your daughter, right? Your daughter that made you come up to me and said, Mom, I want my mom back, she said. And she wanted her mom back, and she wanted her mom to not feel pain and be able to have more energy to do stuff with her. So I've been seeing Joylyn for around 4 months, and I've been adjusting her. And let's see, what was that, a couple weeks ago? She was at the water park. What's it called? Great Wolf? Is it Great?
Great Wolf Lodge.
Great Wolf Lodge. Yep, that water park with her kids. And she said she was able to run around and keep up with her kiddos at that water park all day without pain, and had the energy. And she gets adjusted because her kids get her mom back. And thank you. She wrote this in a beautiful review. So I'm just sharing her words, and it's really amazing that you get to be your best self for your kiddos. And that's all I want for you, is to not be in pain and just be able to be present and be there for your kids and for yourself and for your life. And then Jennifer, I don't have a picture of you, but you're back here. But just back here. So here's her lovely face. I love her story, and I chose to share it because it's different, and so not a lot of people know this, is that chiropractors, we help with jaws. So Jennifer came to me for her back, had some foot problems, and had complications, still some foot issues, and it's not fractures, not healing. So she came to me for this, and she told me, we got to talking about her past and how she's always had tightness in her jaw, and she never was able to open it for more than to put a fork in. Is that what we said?
It got really bad towards towards the end, like I couldn't open to eat a sandwich or, in fact, I had a headshot done today and my son was doing them and he goes, Mom, I don't like your fake smile. And I'm like, I'm just beginning to learn that I'm learning to how to smile and open up my mouth again.
Yeah.
So it's really made a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Even in my speech.
Your speech too.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, your speech, and you've been able to make it through dental work.
Yes.
Still.
Pain-free.
So I've been adjusting her consistently. We've been going at it consistently with her jaw, and it takes time, and it did, because you went to pain clinics. You've had this for over 15 years, so this has been something that's been a long time, and then not to be able to open so bad where you can't open your jaw more than for a fork or to eat a sandwich. So I didn't know how much we'd be able to accomplish with that because it had been there for so long, and so I'm just thrilled because I think we made it like 3 weeks, and her jaw stayed stable, and we didn't have to adjust it. There wasn't clicking there, not pain, and she could pops that scare you, yes, and start to affect your ear and your head and your neck, and so that's just something I love, because we deal with the spine, yes, but we can help with other things too, and there's other things that nerve flow into the jaw. So I didn't just adjust her jaw, I adjusted in her upper cervical neck consistently as well, because the nerves that go into our jaw that deal with our vestibular cochlear nerve, so that it deals with like auditory, and then if we're dizzy, so our balance. So knowing kind of where we are in place, that exits right out the skull and goes down our C1. So adjusting that too really helps with those results. So I love that. And then, that is all I have. So I just wanted to thank you guys. And I'm excited to connect with you and have a lovely dinner. And I wanted to share with you guys, so normally it's $280 to come in for me to do an exam. We do x-rays, so the whole consultation initial appointment. So usually that's $280 with the x-rays if needed. And tonight we're doing a special, so it's $49, and then if you schedule, we throw in a complimentary light therapy, so you get to try that as well and get to experience the benefits. So if you want to schedule an appointment while you're having dinner, Lacey will come around with open appointments, and then you can schedule with her, and she'll give you a gift certificate for light therapy. All right, and enjoy your guys' meal. Thank you.
Thank you.